Welcome to A5 Galilean and Special Relativity, Part 7, where we will be looking at the space-time interval. As you see here in the standard guide, the space-time interval is invariant in between two events, no matter the reference frame, and that's going to be the interesting concept. In the data booklet, you're getting this formula right there. That is the formula for the invariant nature of the space-time. And it's looking at an introduction of the idea. So space-time is invariant between reference frames. That means that even if we are moving at these extraordinary speeds close to the speed of light, where we have relativity, which is going to change length, it's going to change time, it will dilate it or contract it. However, this idea of space-time, this equation that we have here, that delta S squared, that space-time, this fourth dimension is going to remain constant. Now, I like to think about this within, so one way that we could think about this is, let's say we have just a rod in our reference frame, and it's in 3 dimensions, and I know, let's say, the X and the Y value, and also the Z value, how far it's going back, Y value and Z value. We know that we could figure out the length of this rod by X squared plus Y squared plus Z squared. The square of that would give us the length of the rod. And that will remain constant no matter how we're looking at the rod within our reference frame. Now, space-time is a 4th dimension. And if we look at the formula for space-time, you're going to see a few of them. It's right down here. Let me go, I'll use the one from the formula guide. This 4th dimension, this C times the delta time squared, that is the 4th dimension. So it's really actually in the terms of, so C being the speed of light times the change of time. That's really actually another length. And the more generalized version you will see sometimes would be something like C delta, the change in time squared, and then minus your X direction. And then there might be other directions as well, other dimensions, Y, maybe even Z, squared, squared, squared. And the sign, actually, what you should see is not really the signs, that those change depending on convention. But in general, what we see is, what we're going to see is this is equal to another delta S squared, our 4th dimension, And I like to think about this as just like no matter how you're looking at the rod in 3 dimensions, once you know the X, the Y, and the Z values of the rod within those 3 dimensions, you know its length is going to be a constant within our inertial frame. And when we're dealing with multiple reference frames that are traveling at speeds very close to the speed of light, or where we have to take into account relativity, then this idea of space-time, which is going to be this 4th dimension, we take that dimension squared, and we also add the X squared, the Y squared, the Z squared, or any other dimensions. We're also going to have a constant value. And now, luckily for you, in the IB course, we don't have to worry about other dimensions. We're assuming that this is only going to be assuming that we're going in 1 dimension, horizontal, the X direction, which is why we see this formula here. And the general idea here is just like a rod is, or its length is going to be invariant, a constant in our dimension. It's not going to change its length. Similarly, within 4 dimensions, the space-time length, or the space-time metric, is not going to change. It's going to be invariant. And we're going to see that, right? So we're going to see that in the question provided, right? So it means that all observers, whether whichever reference frame they're located in, if we do the Lorentz transformation, we're going to get the same value for the space-time dimension. So let's take a look. Let's take a look with an example, and hopefully it will make it a little bit more clear. So we have, let me see, right? So we have this 2 inertial frames, S and S prime, and they both start together. Then they start moving apart with a relative velocity of 0.9 c. An observer in S sees a firecracker explode at x equals 10 meters at time 10 to the negative 8. So now first let's find the space-time dimension. So this delta S squared, the space-time dimension, the space-time interval, is equal to c, the speed of light, I'll just write it all out again, times delta t squared minus the distance squared. And c is equal to 3 times 10 to the 8th power t, according to the problem, is 10 to the negative 8 seconds. This whole thing squared minus the delta x, the distance traveled, which was the firecracker exploded at x equals 10, so this would be 10 squared. And if we plug this in, actually we could probably do this without a calculator, so we see that those will cancel out. And then you're going to be left with 3 squared, which is 9. Take away 100 is equal to negative 91. And now let's see if we get the same number, the same space-time interval for the observer in S prime, the observer who's in a reference frame that is moving at a speed of 0.9 c. So they're actually working, so in part 2, they're walking us through. So let's calculate the Lorentz factor, that gamma, which is gamma is equal to 1 over, we're going to need that for our transformations. So I will do 1 divided by the square root of 1 minus, and v is equal to 0.9 c. So 0.9 squared is going to be 0.81 c squared, so 0.81. Those c squareds are going to cancel out, giving us a Lorentz factor, a gamma of 2.29, well, 2.29, and I'll write this out. I'll write out all the numbers just to ensure that there's no rounding error. I'll also use out my calculator just to ensure that we get this invariant same number, which was negative 91 for the one observer. I want to make sure I get that same number within our reference frame. So we calculated the Lorentz factor, that was calculate the Lorentz transformation for x prime. So we know that x prime is equal to gamma times x being 10, minus velocity, which is 0.9 c. 0.9 c times 10 to the negative 8, which is the time. And let us see what we, right, so what we're going to get here, c is equal to 3 times, write it out. So we have 10 take away 0.9, c is equal to 3 times 10 to the 8th power times 10 to the negative 8. And if we multiply this all out, I'll do it this times 10, take away 0.9 times 3, the 10 to the 8s will cancel out. 10 to the 8 times 10 to the negative 8 will cancel out. So it should be really take away 2.7 here, giving me back an answer of 16.747. So that distance there was dilated to 16.747, right? It became longer from the perspective, right? So it became, right? So it extended. And now let's take a look at the time dilation. And that's going to be, let's see, time that this is equal to x prime. T prime we see is again going to be gamma times time, which is 10 to the negative 8. Minus velocity, which is, the velocity is 0.9 c, times x, which is 10, over c squared. Those c's are going to cancel. I'm going to just do gamma again, 10 to the negative 8. It's going to be 0.9 times 10. The c will cancel out, so we have 9 over c. And let's see what this comes out to for our time dilation. So the time dilation is going to be, let's take a look. We have the Lorentz factor again, times 10 to the negative 8. Take away 9 divided by 3 times 10 to the 8. And let's see what we get back. In this case, we get back negative 4.58. Let me go and this is equal to negative 4.5883 times 10 to the negative 8 is equal to our time dilation. The time dilation I'll put on this side as well. And let's see, we're using those dilations. We could now plug it back into we could use this formula now, using our time dilation to get the space-time metric, the space-time value for this person in the moving frame. So I plug in, let's go now and I'll write this in a different color. We have delta S squared is equal to C times the change in times our change in time. Our change in time now is actually a negative value. And don't let that confuse you. What does that mean? That in this person's frame of reference, and that person in the reference frame that's moving at 0.9 times the speed of light, the firecracker actually occurred, and observer sees the firecracker explode at time 10 to the negative 8 seconds. In this person's perspective, that person moving at such a fast speed, time dilation caused him to actually see it occur in the past prior to when he started moving. Right? And that's just one of the quirky natures of space-time from our perspective, that things that happen in the future in one time frame are occurring in the past in another. But that is what the physics says. Anyway, going forward and just plugging in our numbers, we have this space-time interval is equal to C times now the dilated time, which was, let me actually write this, I'll just write the dilated time squared minus the dilated distance squared, and I will plug that into the calculator because I have all the numbers right there. So let's take a look. We have, it's going to be 3 times 10 to the 8th. So it's 3 times 10 to the 8th times our dilated time, which is, we have right above. So times, I'll use the calculator version just to make sure I have a number that's very close to the calculation without rounding it, with no rounding errors, minus the x value. The dilated x was right there, squared as well. And let's see if we pressed in everything correctly. We got what I wanted, which is negative 90.9999997, or in other words, this here comes out to negative 91, which is impressive, even though we were in a different reference frame. Once we did the Lorentz transformations on our time and distance, we plug it into the space-time interval, and we get the space-time interval. This is illustrating the point that no matter which frame you're in, we're able to get the same value after the Lorentz transformations. So when we were dealing with relativity for the first part of this A5, we saw crazy things occurring. Time was changing, distance was changing between reference frames. However, now we found a metric, the space-time interval, which will be invariant after taking into account all of the Lorentz transformations. Right. So this is impressive and, in my opinion, incredible. Right, an incredible dimension. Now we were just for the last few videos, we were seeing our measurements change, dilate, being our time measurement or our length measurement. And now we actually found something that is invariant across reference frames. A significant finding. And that brings us to the conclusion of part 7, the space-time invariant. And we'll continue our exploration of space-time, the space-time dimension, in the next video. We're still in A5. Right, so see everybody there for part 8.